What if I told you that one of the most common foods on Earth might hold a secret weapon in the fight against high blood sugar? Well, today we're going to break down some really fascinating research that hunts for answers inside a simple grain of rice.
Okay, so think about it. Every single time we eat, especially a meal with carbs, a whole battle starts inside our bodies. It's this process of breaking down food into sugar or glucose, which then hits our bloodstream to give us energy. Now, managing that process is a real balancing act. But what if the key to winning that battle, to tipping the scales in our favor, has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, in a food that's been feeding us for thousands of years?
To really get why this is so important, we have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We're not just talking about what happens after one dinner. This is about a massive global health challenge.
Get this. According to the International Diabetes Federation, a staggering 10.5% of adults around the world are affected by diabetes. That's not just a number. That's hundreds of millions of people, and it's projected to keep on climbing. So for scientists, the bullseye, the thing they're really targeting, is that specific moment right after we eat, that sharp, sudden spike in blood sugar. If you can control that, you're on your way to helping maintain metabolic health. And they think they've found a way to control it by going after a very specific player in our digestive system. The easiest way to picture it is to think of it like a tiny pair of molecular scissors. These scissors have a name, α-amylase, and its one and only job is to take complex carbs, like the starch in bread or rice, and chop them up into simple sugars that our body can absorb super fast. Right? So here's the game plan. Normally, those alpha-amylase scissors work really fast, which causes that big sugar rush. But what if you could find a natural compound, an inhibitor, that could act like a safety guard on those scissors? It wouldn't stop them completely, but it would slow them down, meaning the sugar gets released into your bloodstream way more slowly and steadily. So, the million-dollar question is, where do you find these natural inhibitors? Well, the researchers had a brilliant idea. Why not look inside the very food that's packed with the starch in the first place? They turned their attention to traditional, ancient varieties of rice.
They looked at several different kinds, including pigmented ones like Kurupu kavuni and non-pigmented types like authoritative. But here's the really smart part. They analyzed the rice after it was cooked, because that's how we eat it, right? It makes the findings so much more relevant to our actual lives.
And almost immediately, they found a huge clue. When they looked at the chemical fingerprint of the authoritative rice, let's just call it AKS, something just jumped off the page. A full third of its profile is made up of these compounds called esters. For the researchers, that was like a giant flashing neon sign that this particular rice was something special. Okay, so the team identified 156 different compounds across all the rice varieties. I mean, can you imagine testing each one of those in a lab by hand? It would take forever. So they started with a much smarter, much faster approach. They turned to computers. They used a technique called molecular docking. And the analogy for this is perfect. Think of that alpha-amylase enzyme as a lock, and all 156 of those compounds are different keys. What they did was use a supercomputer to digitally test every single key in that lock to see which one fit the most perfectly. And that is what a perfect fit looks like. You're seeing one of those compounds, the key, slotting right into the most important part of the enzyme, the lock. A fit this snug basically gums up the works, and it's super effective at blocking the enzyme from doing its job of releasing sugar too quickly. So, what did the computer find? Well, take a look at the top 3 digital hits. The absolute best one, the key with the tightest fit, came from that AKS rice. And so did the third best one. This was a massive clue, pointing directly at the AKS variety as the one to watch.
But a computer simulation is one thing. You've got to prove it works in the real world. So for the researchers, it was time to move from the computer to the lab bench to see if their predictions held up.
So this was the moment of truth. They took the actual extracts from the cooked rice and put them in a test tube with that alpha-amylase enzyme. The big question was, would the real-world results actually match what the computer predicted? And the answer was a resounding yes. Now, on this chart, just remember that a lower bar means stronger inhibition, so lower is better. And there it is. Authoritative was the most powerful inhibitor of them all, confirming exactly what the digital model had predicted. Pretty cool, huh? So, what does this all boil down to? It really points to this incredible potential of looking at our food not just as fuel or calories, but as something that can actually function like medicine for our bodies. So let's wrap this up. The scientists used this brilliant two-step method, digital screening first, then real-world lab tests. They found that a traditional rice, α-amylase, is a rock star at blocking that key sugar-releasing enzyme. And it's very likely because of its unique and high concentration of those ester compounds. This is just a perfect example of how ancient foods can hold some very modern solutions to our health problems. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a simple grain of rice is hiding secrets like this, what other amazing health solutions are just waiting out there for us, ready to be rediscovered in the foods our ancestors have been eating for centuries?